So the finale of Moon Knight just dropped today, and I'm going to go ahead and give my review on it. I think it was probably the best MCU Disney Plus finale since Loki, and I think the show is honestly on par with me with Loki. So if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content. Also, spoiler warning for the finale of Moon Knight. So this episode for me was definitely on par. This makes the series on par with Loki for me personally. I think this finale was fantastic. We see Layla sneak into Harrow's group into the Chamber of the Gods, where she frees Khonshu, and she also becomes the avatar of Taweret at the same time. And it seems like when she becomes the avatar for Taweret, she is supposed to be the Scarlet Scarab, I believe, from the comics, although I think the comic version of the Scarlet Scarab is very different than what we actually see in the show, but obviously that's not a big deal. It was definitely cool to see what kind of suit she got along with what type of power she had, and I think the way they showed off what Moon Knight could do in this episode was phenomenal. I think it was really cool. The way Khonshu manipulated the wind and basically allowed Moon Knight to fly, and I thought was just really cool imagery the way they did it, especially with like the crescent moon cape imagery over the moon in the sky, and he's like flying with like a jet sound in the background. Basically, I just thought that was really cool the way they did it. And then the whole idea of having the two battles going on simultaneously, I thought was cool to see Mark and Layla fight Harrow on the ground, and then at the same time see Khonshu fight Ammit in the distance. Now, everything about this episode I thought was truly great, but something that really surprised me in this episode was the action, 100%. The action wasn't bad in previous episodes, but the action in this episode to me was exponentially better than it has been in the previous episodes, to the point where I was honestly blown away by how good it was. The way Mark and Steven would simultaneously switch to work together and also fight alongside Layla at the same time, I think it was just awesome to see the way they did that. And then when it seemed like Mark and Layla were about to lose and die, and then Mark blacks out and everyone around him basically becomes dead, I was disappointed at the time that we didn't see the third personality in that moment, but obviously that was rectified with the post-credit scene. I was also a little upset at the end where it appeared Mark wouldn't be Moon Knight anymore, but obviously that was also rectified with the post-credit scene. And then just talking about the ending of this episode in general, jumping between the psych ward and then back to the bed in London, I thought was kind of a daring thing to do, especially after that big finale, but I thought it was cool to get viewers to think about, because for a moment it continued to make you think about whether any of this was real or not, especially with how Mark and Steven switched between personalities in this scene. Usually they have like a more dramatic switch between the alternate personalities, but in this it was a more subtle way, which I felt like would be more realistic to someone with dissociative identity disorders. So that kind of like put even more doubt into question about whether or not anything we had been seeing was even real this whole time. And then, of course, with the post-credit scene, obviously, I just think they did a really good job with the way they wrapped this up. So with the post-credit scene, we see Arthur Harrow taken out of the psych ward by Jake Lockley, the third personality of Mark and Steven, who is the one who's been like the ruthless killer where they just black out and everybody's dead. And he appears to be a limo driver, which is just kind of a funny comparison to me, because in the comics he's a cab driver, so obviously that's just going to be a little bit different. And then we also get the reveal that even though Mark and Steven think they are free of Khonshu, they aren't, because Khonshu is still linked to Jake Lockley. And then obviously the scene ends with Jake Lockley shooting Harrow, and that was just the icing on the cake to explain everything that wasn't explained in the main episode. Like, I honestly think the way they explained Jake Lockley in the post-credit scene was the best they could have explained it, for not having referenced him full on in the series whatsoever and leaving him for the post-credit scene of the finale. I thought it was great the way they did that. Overall, like I said, I think this is the best episode. I think this episode is on par with the Loki finale for me, especially so because it didn't feel rushed to me. A lot of these Disney Plus shows have a problem with the finale being rushed. Obviously some more than others, especially like WandaVision feels the most rushed to me. but this one didn't feel rushed to me at all. It felt like the perfect pace. I think the show is at least on par with Loki for me, with Loki being probably just a hair above it, only because of the I like when things have big ramifications, which obviously the Loki series ended with huge ramifications for the multiverse. So that's kind of what makes Loki just a little bit better in my opinion, but I still think Moon Knight is by far the best Disney Plus series outside of that. But that about wraps up my review. I would give this episode probably like a 9.5 out of 10. I mean, I truly think it wasn't rushed at all. I do wish it was probably just a little bit longer, just so we could get more exposition just in general, just so we had more time left with the characters, because obviously this episode was shorter than some of the other episodes. But if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content, and comment down below if you enjoyed this series finale, and I appreciate you for watching the video.